The city's breath, a frigid whisper against your collar, carries the faint scent of rain-soaked asphalt and distant exhaust. Dawn bleeds a bruised purple across the eastern sky as your vehicle glides to a halt before the monolithic grandeur of the Athenaeum Museum. Its limestone facade, usually a proud sentinel of history, now looms under the pallor of an unfolding dread, the silent witnesses of its sculpted figures seeming to hold a shared secret. You step onto the polished cobblestones, the crunch beneath your shoes a stark counterpoint to the hushed reverence the building usually commands. Uniformed officers, their faces grim etchings in the pre-dawn gloom, cordon off the perimeter. Their hushed voices weave a tapestry of disbelief, a murmur of the impossible. A uniformed officer, a familiar face with tired eyes, approaches, his shoulders slumped beneath the weight of the morning's revelation. "Dean," the officer greets, the name a weary sigh. "It's something else. No forced entry, no alarms, just gone." Your gaze sweeps the imposing structure, searching for the telltale scar of a breach, a shattered window, a forced door. There is nothing. The museum stands immaculate, a fortress unblemished, yet its most prized possession, the Chronos Dial, has vanished. A knot tightens in your gut, a familiar precursor to a case that defies logic. This is not a simple smash and grab. This is a ghost. Inside, the grand marble foyer, usually bustling with eager visitors, is eerily still. The air, typically cool and dry, carries a faint, almost imperceptible scent, something metallic, like ozone, but with an underlying sweetness, a ghost of a perfume that doesn't belong in this hallowed space. You file it away, a tiny anomaly in a sea of perplexing normalcy. The security chief, a man whose meticulously combed hair now stands in disarray, meets you at the base of the grand staircase. His face is a mask of bewildered fury, his voice a strained rasp. Every sensor, every pressure plate, every camera feed, pristine. It's like it dematerialized. We've checked and rechecked. There's no breach. You nod, your eyes scanning the ornate balustrade, the gleaming display cases, the very air itself for an answer. Your hand instinctively goes to the secure device tucked into your inner jacket pocket. Just as your fingers brush the cool metal, it vibrates. A silent, urgent summons. You retrieve it, your brow furrowing at the encrypted message. An image, fleeting but stark, flashes across the screen. A close-up of a stack of crisp, newly minted banknotes, meticulously arranged. In the background, out of focus but unmistakable, the low hum of a portable money counter in what appears to be a desert safe house with portable money counter humming. This isn't just a theft. It's a transaction, already completed, far from here. The Chronos Dial is gone, and the payment is already being tallied. The message vanishes as quickly as it appeared, leaving only the ghost of its presence, a jarring incongruity against the museum's silent despair. "Take me to the vault," you instruct, the words cutting through the chief's bewildered ramblings. Your mind, sharp and determined, is already piecing together the impossible. Someone has already profited from this ethereal crime. The journey to the vault is a descent into the museum's fortified core. Corridors lined with ancient tapestries give way to stark, concrete passages, punctuated by heavy steel doors and biometric scanners. Each step reinforces the narrative of impregnability. This wasn't merely a vault. It was a sanctuary, designed to withstand siege, not illusion. Finally, you stand before the vault door itself. It is a masterpiece of engineering, a leviathan of reinforced steel and intricate tumblers, its surface gleaming under the harsh utility lights. No scratches mar its polished face, no pry marks disfigure its edges. The locking mechanism, a complex array of gears and bolts, remains engaged, the heavy steel door undeniably sealed. The security chief fumbles with his keycard and retina scan, a nervous tremor in his hands. The door hisses open with a controlled exhalation of air, revealing the inner sanctum. The vault is a climate-controlled chamber of stark white walls and recessed lighting, designed for optimal preservation. In its center, on a raised pedestal of polished black granite, a velvet cushion lies perfectly undisturbed. Empty. The Chronos Dial, a marvel of ancient horology and a cornerstone of human history, is gone. Not a shard of glass, not a disturbed dust motes, not a single fiber of evidence. You approach the pedestal, your eyes tracing the empty space where the artifact once rested. Your fingers brush the velvet, cool and smooth. No residue, no fingerprints, nothing. You kneel, examining the granite base, running your gloved fingertips along its surface, then checking the floor for any minute disturbance, any displaced particle. The curator, a woman with spectacles perched on her nose and a tremor in her voice, hovers nearby. Her face is pale, her hands clasped tightly. It's impossible, Dean. The pressure plates under the pedestal, the laser grid, the seismic sensors in the walls. Nothing. Not a flicker. It simply ceased to be here. You stand, turning slowly, letting your gaze absorb every inch of the immaculate chamber. The very perfection of the scene is the most unsettling clue of all. An impossible heist. A silent disappearance. This wasn't just a theft. It was a declaration. And you, Dean Mitchell, are now inextricably bound to its silent, dangerous narrative. The museum's hushed grandeur still clings to you, a cold skin against your resolve. You move through the sterile hallways, the echo of your own steps a stark contrast to the silent void left by the Chronos Dial. Your initial sweep of the vault, a tableau of impossible perfection, has planted a seed of unease. Now the threads begin. His office, a sanctuary of polished mahogany and weighty tomes, offers little comfort. He gestures with hands that tremble almost imperceptibly as he details the vault's layers of protection. Biometric locks, pressure sensors, any system anomalies, however minor. He assures you, with a practiced smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes, that all systems were optimal. His gaze, however, drifts to a framed photograph on his desk. An old sepia-toned image of the museum's founding, a group of stern-faced academics. A fleeting, almost imperceptible shift in his posture. A stiffness when you mention the dial's unique, almost esoteric historical context. He stresses its artistic and cultural value, less its mechanical intricacy. A subtle lean away, a quiet shift in emphasis. You mark it. Next, the security chief. His jaw is set, his posture rigid with professional pride. No breaches, detective. No alarms. Every camera feed is accounted for. You lean closer to a screen displaying the vault's exterior, then its interior. Any dead zones? Any blips, even for a fraction of a second? He shakes his head, a dismissive flick of his wrist. Crystal clear. 24/7. The system's foolproof. Yet, as you watch, a micro-stutter in the footage from an external camera, barely a pixelated hiccup, catches your eye. It's gone before you can be certain, a ghost in the machine. When you point it out, the chief scoffs, attributing it to a momentary network fluctuation, a common digital artifact. His explanation is too quick, too neat. You let it hang in the air, a question unasked. He then grudgingly admits that the internal climate control system, a separate network, had been offline for a few hours 2 nights prior for a routine, pre-scheduled filter replacement. Nothing to do with security, Dean, just the air. He offers this as an afterthought, an irrelevant detail. You file it away, a loose thread. The forensic technician, a diligent woman with sharp eyes and a methodical air, meets you back at the vault entrance. Her report is as clean as the chamber itself. No forced entry, no tool marks, no fingerprints beyond the usual staff, no trace elements. It's empty. She runs a gloved hand along the vault door's pristine surface. The biometric scanner shows no unauthorized attempts. The laser grid remained unbroken. The pressure plates registered no weight. She pauses, her brow furrowed. It's like it simply evaporated. No struggle, no residual dust, not even a microscopic fiber from a burglar's glove. The very absence of evidence is a clamor in your ears. You walk the perimeter with her, your gaze sweeping for anything overlooked. Later, in a small, windowless office provided for your use, you pore over the museum's comprehensive dossier on the Chronos Dial. Its provenance, its archaeological discovery, its restoration notes. You skim through dense academic papers detailing its historical context, its supposed purpose as an ancient navigational aid or calendrical device. Most of it is standard historical record, meticulously cataloged. But then, a footnote in an obscure journal article, tucked away in a bibliography, snags your attention. It's a critique, almost a dissenting opinion, on the dial's commonly accepted function. The author, a reclusive academic known for challenging established historical narratives, posits that the dial's true purpose was far more complex, incorporating principles of physics and celestial mechanics that were supposedly unknown in its era of creation. The article, by a scholar named Alistair Finch, suggests the dial was not merely a passive timekeeper, but an active mechanism, a key to something more profound. Finch's name, you recall, has a reputation, whispered in academic circles, for being brilliant but unconventional, almost an outcast. His theories are often dismissed as fringe, too radical for mainstream acceptance. Yet here it is, a direct link to the very object that has vanished without a trace. The air inside is still, thick with the smell of dry earth and new currency. A gloved hand feeds another sheaf of notes into the machine, watching the digital display tick upwards. Each crisp count, a silent tally of the impossible heist. You close the dossier, the name Alistair Finch echoing in your mind. This is your first true thread, thin but taut, pulling you away from the polished halls of the museum and towards a forgotten corner of academia. You reach for your phone, a determined glint in your eyes. The hushed grandeur of the museum finally releases you, but its cold skin still clings to your resolve. Each step you take away from its formidable walls, away from the silent void left by the Chronos Dial, feels heavy with the weight of an impossible perfection. This isn't about mere value. It's about a hidden hunger. Your vehicle cuts through the city's arteries, the urban hum a dull counterpoint to the insistent gears turning in your mind. You navigate toward the older ivy-clad district, a place where history isn't just displayed but lives, breathes, and sometimes suffocates under its own forgotten weight. The historian awaits. Her reputation precedes her. Brilliant, reclusive, a mind that sees patterns where others see only dust. The air inside is thick with the scent of aged paper and something faintly metallic, like old coins or forgotten keys. Bookshelves, groaning under their burdens, rise like ancient forests, their spines a riot of faded titles and arcane subjects. The historian herself is a slender figure, framed by a window overlooking a courtyard where autumn leaves drift in lazy circles. Him spectacles rest low on him nose, magnifying eyes that hold a disconcerting depth, a gaze accustomed to sifting through centuries. Dean Mitchell, he greets, his voice a low current, surprisingly resonant. She doesn't offer a hand, merely gestures to a chair piled with scrolls, which you carefully clear. The museum's call was intriguing. They spoke of an artifact, not a bauble. You lay out the sparse details, the impenetrable vault, the lack of forced entry, the baffling precision. The Chronos Dial, you begin, watching her reaction. Its market value is immense, of course, but the way it was taken, it feels like something more, a surgical extraction. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touches her lips, a flicker of understanding that sends a shiver down your spine. Its market value is a convenient illusion, detective, she corrects, her voice soft but firm. A red herring for those who only see the surface. The Chronos Dial's true worth cannot be quantified by currency or auction paddles. She rises, moving with a fluid grace that belies her studious demeanor. Not as a time-telling device, as the museum curators would have you believe, but as a key. It's been untranslatable, a Rosetta Stone without its companion. The Chronos Dial, with its intricate gears and celestial alignments, was designed to unlock its secrets. It's not about when something happened, Dean, but what was said. The realization hits you with the force of a physical blow. This wasn't a simple theft. This was an intellectual heist, a bid for forbidden knowledge. What kind of secrets? You press, your voice tight. What's in this text? Her gaze narrows, becoming distant, as if peering into the past. Legends speak of a hidden history, a narrative that challenges the very foundations of certain powerful families and institutions within this city. It's said to expose a colossal historical injustice, a truth buried deep beneath layers of fabricated legacy and carefully constructed power. Imagine, Dean, the unraveling of an entire lineage, built on a lie perpetuated for decades. Some truths, once revealed, can bring down empires, not just reputations. The air in the office grows heavy, charged with unspoken implications. So, someone wants to read it, you deduce? Or perhaps ensure no one else ever can. Precisely, she confirms, nodding slowly. There are those, even within the hallowed halls of academia, who covet such knowledge, not for its historical purity, for the leverage it provides. Rivalries run deep, Dean, deeper than any vault. This isn't merely about possessing an artifact. It's about controlling a narrative. And controlling a narrative means controlling the future. She walks to her desk, picking up a faded photograph. It shows a group of stern-faced men in early 20th century attire, standing before an archaeological dig site. My predecessor, a former colleague, dedicated his life to this text. He believed it held the key to a truth that would shake the city. He spent years trying to understand the dial, even attempting to reconstruct its mechanisms from fragmented notes. A network, rather than a single individual. They operate with resources beyond typical academic grants. They have reach. Reach. The word hangs in the air, connecting the dusty academic world to something far more tangible, far more dangerous. If this text held such power, its acquisition would require significant funding and logistical support. Not just academic cunning, but raw, undeniable capital. As you leave the historian's office, the city lights begin to speckle the twilight. This isn't just about history, it's about power, money, and the lengths people will go to protect their legacies. The lead on the collector isn't a direct name, but a pattern of previous acquisitions and a known, highly discreet courier service used for valuable off-book items. This courier, often operates through a series of transient, untraceable waypoints. One such waypoint, recently active, comes to mind. It's a long drive, a journey away from the city's intellectual heart, into its stark, unforgiving periphery. Hours later, the hum of the city is long gone, replaced by the vast, silent expanse of the desert night. Your headlights cut through the inky black, kicking up dust devils in their wake. A lone, unassuming structure finally appears on the horizon. A squat, reinforced building blending almost perfectly with the ochre landscape. This is it. This is where the money moves, where the transactions happen, away from prying eyes. You approach cautiously, your hand instinctively going to your sidearm. The air is still, save for the faint, rhythmic whirring that escapes the building's unlit windows. A low, persistent drone. As you draw closer, the sound becomes distinct, unmistakable. The game has just begun. The word reach still echoes in the chambers of your mind as you step from the hushed halls of the university building. The afternoon sun, a sudden, sharp glare against your eyes. Its acquisition, as the old text suggested, demanded not just intellect, but a deep well of capital, a formidable network of influence. This thought hardens the line of your jaw. The door, usually ajar or firmly locked, stands slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness visible within. A tremor of unease unfurls in your gut. This is not how Anya leaves her space. You push the door inward, the soft click of the latch unnervingly loud in the sudden quiet. The scene within is not one of outright devastation, but of deliberate disarray. Books, once meticulously stacked, now lean precariously or lie splayed open on the floor. Papers, usually confined to neat piles, are scattered like fallen leaves across her antique wooden desk. A small porcelain owl, a gift you'd once noticed, lies shattered on the rug, its ceramic eyes staring blankly upwards. Nothing of obvious value seems missing. The antique globe still spins on its stand. Her laptop remains closed on the credenza. This isn't theft. Anya enters, her breath catching in her throat, her eyes widening at the sight. What in the... Her voice is a low gasp. She moves with a hesitant grace, surveying the subtle chaos. They didn't take anything. No forced entry, no broken lock. Someone had a key, or the skill to bypass the mechanism without leaving a trace. This isn't about what they took, Anya. It's about what they left behind. It is fresh, almost dewy. A calling card, perhaps. Anya runs a hand through her hair, her expression a mix of anger and dawning apprehension. A warning for what? For looking into the Chronos Dial? For asking about reach? Her voice trembles slightly, but her eyes hold a defiant spark. Just as you are about to respond, your burner phone, tucked into your inner jacket pocket, vibrates. A single, untraceable message flashes across the screen. The words are stark, unadorned. Some truths are best left buried, detective. Heed this quietly. No sender ID, no timestamp, just the stark text. Your fingers tighten around the device. The timing is too precise, the message too direct. Someone is watching us, Anya. Someone powerful, someone who knows exactly what we're looking into, and they don't want us to find it. Far from the city's concrete sprawl, under a sky bruised with the last vestiges of twilight, a single-story structure of corrugated metal sits squat and low against the desert floor. A lone figure, dressed in tailored linen, sits at a folding table. A glass of amber liquid gleams in the low light, untouched. The counter ticks over, a digital display flashing the growing sum, a testament to resources vast and untraceable. The operation is smooth, efficient, funded by an unseen hand, a silent engine of influence and control. Back in Anya's office, the shattered porcelain owl on the rug seems to mock your previous sense of security. Anya says, her voice steady now, devoid of its earlier tremor. They want us to be afraid. You meet her gaze. The unspoken understanding passing between you. The break-in, the veiled threat. These are not random acts of vandalism or empty warnings. They are calculated moves by a force with resources, reach, and a clear agenda. The weight of that realization presses upon you, a chill that defies the city's humid air. Your mind, a mosaic of fragmented clues, begins to assemble a picture. The cryptic note left by the thief, the precise, almost surgical nature of the heist. It all screams of a motive far grander than mere acquisition. This isn't about value, not in the currency of gold or prestige. This is about information, about a narrative woven into the very fabric of the city's past, now threatening to unravel. He spoke of the dial's rumored ability, not as a time-traveling device, but as an interpreter, a linguistic Rosetta Stone for a specific obscure script. A script found in only a handful of fragmented texts, all pointing to a suppressed history. The desert sun, a cruel, indifferent eye, beats down upon the landscape as your vehicle churns dust into the vast ochre expanse. Miles melt into a shimmering horizon, the city's concrete veins fading into a distant memory. The air grows thin, dry, tasting of sand and secrets. The scent of stale coffee and something metallic, like old coins, hangs in the air as you push open the creaking door. Inside, the light is dim, filtered through grimy windows. But your gaze sweeps past the illicit currency, drawn instead to the shelves lining the far wall. Not filled with ledgers or weapons, but with books. Ancient tomes, brittle scrolls, and stacks of yellow documents, all breathing the heavy scent of forgotten paper and aged ink. You move through the room, your boots crunching softly on scattered grit. Your fingers trace the spines of volumes bound in faded leather, some marked with symbols you don't recognize. The scholar's words echo in your mind. Look for the lexicon, Dean. Its cover is unadorned, save for a single stylized symbol carved into the wood. A familiar motif you'd seen subtly etched into the base of the Chronos Dial's display stand at the museum. Carefully, you open the volume. The script inside is unlike anything you've encountered. A dance of sharp angles and flowing curves, elegant yet utterly impenetrable. These are not direct translations of the ancient script, but rather commentaries. Historical interpretations, cross-references, and, most crucially, a partial deciphering guide. Your eyes scan the cramped handwriting, piecing together fragments of a narrative. They detail how the city's most revered families, the very pillars of its establishment, had built their initial fortunes on a foundation of deceit. A vast tract of land, rich in a valuable mineral deposit, was not acquired through fair negotiation, but through a ruthless exploitation of a smaller indigenous community, their rights systematically erased from official records. The founding accord was a document of suppression, a legal fiction designed to bury the truth. The ancient script, the notes explain, was the true account, written by the community elders, detailing the injustice, the forced displacement, the stolen resources. It was their history, their cry for justice, carefully preserved and hidden. And the Chronos Dial? It was designed to interpret this very script, a ceremonial object passed down through generations of the wronged, a symbolic key waiting for the right moment, the right hand, to unlock its devastating truth. The pieces slam into place with a sickening clarity. The heist was never about the dial's market value. It was about its revelatory power. Someone or some collective connected to these founding families knew the dial existed, knew its purpose, and understood the catastrophic implications if it ever deciphered the ancient text. The city's gilded history, its very origin story, would crumble, exposing generations of ill-gotten wealth and carefully constructed reputations built on a lie. The threat isn't just to the dial, but to anyone who gets close to its secret. Your fingers tighten on the brittle pages. You have the motive. Now you need the names. The dust motes dance in the sliver of light, tiny particles of a past that now feels dangerously alive, swirling around you. You are no longer merely investigating a theft. You are unearthing a crime centuries old, and its perpetrators, or their descendants, are watching. The bound parchments, brittle as forgotten promises, yield their secrets under your careful touch. The stylized symbol, a coiled serpent devouring its own tail within an intricate knot, stares back from the worn wooden cover. Your fingers trace the ancient grooves, a bridge between the museum's hushed halls and this dusty, anachronistic find. You recall a fleeting glimpse of this very symbol in a brittle, leather-bound volume, an obscure historical society's crest, mentioned only in a footnote regarding the city's early benefactors, the Society of the Verdant Knot. Their name, once a mere curiosity, now resonates with a chilling weight. You pull up the digital archives, seeking any mention of the Verdant Knot, cross-referencing names, properties, old land grants. The records are sparse, almost deliberately so, like scattered breadcrumbs leading into a labyrinth. When you try to access a more restricted database, one that chronicles the city's oldest and wealthiest families, a system alert flashes, then dies. A moment later, your desktop chimes. A new email from a superior, direct and clipped. Dean, focus on the present. This historical rabbit hole is costing us resources. You feel the invisible walls tightening, the quiet pressure from within your trusted circle. Was it a warning? A silent acknowledgement of the forces at play? Or simply indifference? The ambiguity gnaws. The parchments, a map. You cannot unsee what you have seen. Circumventing official channels, you turn to the financial ledger found alongside the ancient texts. Its entries are recent, meticulously recorded, yet filled with shell corporations and offshore accounts. One name, though, a local holding company, catches your eye. It's a ghost entity, dissolved years ago, yet a recent substantial transfer is recorded under its dormant name. The address linked to the defunct company leads you far beyond the city's manicured lawns and towering glass. Your vehicle eats up the miles, the asphalt giving way to cracked earth, the urban sprawl receding into a vast, empty expanse. The sun beats down, a relentless hammer on the tin roof of the world. Dust devils dance across the horizon, miniature tornadoes of ochre and rust. Eventually, your tires crunch onto a gravel path leading to a solitary structure, a low-slung building of sun-baked brick, almost camouflaged against the barren landscape. Through a grimy window, slightly ajar, you peer inside. The space is Spartan, functional. A large table dominates the center, littered with stacks of crisp banknotes, some banded, others loose. Two figures stand by the table, their backs to you. The other, slighter, more refined, gestures animatedly. As the refined figure turns to collect another stack of cash, the light catches his profile. Your breath hitches. It's a face you know, a face you've seen across polished tables in briefing rooms, a face that belongs to the upper echelons of the city's legal department. A man known for his impeccable discretion and unwavering loyalty to the city's powerful. He is, in essence, a pillar of the establishment, an unshakable figure. But here, in this remote, sun-scorched hideout, he is not discussing municipal bylaws. He is overseeing a cash transaction of staggering proportions, his expression devoid of the detached professionalism you've always known. His gaze falls on a small, ornate box on the table, its lid open. Inside, nestled on velvet, is a smaller, simpler version of the coiled serpent symbol, the mark of the verdant knot, cast in tarnished silver. The reveal hits you with the force of a physical blow. The connection is undeniable, stark, terrifying. The man from the legal department, a figure of authority and integrity, is deep within its grasp, involved in transactions that reek of illicit gain and hidden agendas. You pull back from the window, the image seared into your mind. The humming of the money counter now sounds like a death knell. And the game is being played by people who walk among you, people who hold positions of power, people who now know you are digging too close to their buried truths. The resistance you felt in your department was not random. It was deliberate. You are no longer just chasing a thief. You are hunting ghosts among the living, and the hunt has just become infinitely more perilous. The message from your trusted circle, a subtle tightening of the invisible noose, still prickles at the back of your neck. They want you to pivot, to look away. But the truth, like a relentless desert wind, keeps blowing you back to the heart of the storm. Here, in this forgotten corner of the world, far from the polished marble of the museum and the hushed corridors of power, you find a different kind of silence. A makeshift desk, fashioned from stacked crates, holds a single anachronistic laptop, its screen a defiant beacon against the encroaching twilight beyond the grimy window. Your fingers, calloused from years of navigating a different kind of labyrinth, now dance over a borrowed keyboard. You are attempting to breach the digital fortress of the city's most lauded institution, the Heritage Foundation, a seemingly benevolent body dedicated to preserving history, led by a figure known only as the Patron. This individual, a titan of philanthropy, has always been beyond reproach, a name synonymous with civic virtue and impeccable taste. Yet, a whisper, a fleeting shadow has led you here, to this clandestine act of digital trespass. Hours bleed into one another. The screen's blue-white glow paints your face in stark relief, highlighting the determined set of your jaw. Lines of code scroll past, a foreign language you've diligently taught yourself in the small hours, fueled by stale coffee and an unyielding sense of injustice. Then, a flicker. A gateway opens. You are in. The network of the Heritage Foundation sprawls before you, a carefully constructed digital facade. You navigate through layers of public records, philanthropic ledgers, and benign correspondence, searching for the anomaly, the discordant note. Your focus narrows to the patron's private server, a section meticulously compartmentalized and heavily encrypted. This is where the real secrets lie, tucked away from public scrutiny, shrouded in layers of digital dust. The decryption process is a tense ballet of algorithms and guesswork. Your breath hitches as the progress bar inches forward, a slow crawl towards revelation. The air in the safe house grows heavy, thick with anticipation. Finally, the last lock clicks open, and a directory of files, not meant for your eyes, spills forth. Old files, some dating back decades, their digital timestamps yellowed with age, yet their content still sharp, still potent. You begin to sift through them, a digital archaeologist unearthing buried truths. There are encrypted communications, coded financial transfers, and internal memos. Your eyes scan for keywords: Chronos Dial, acquisition, recontextualization, custodianship. And then you find it. The subject line is innocuous. Committee for Historical Preservation. Minutes. But the content is anything but. It describes meetings of a group referred to as the Architects of Legacy, discussing containment protocols and historical revision. The names listed are a roll call of the city's elite, many of them ancestors of today's prominent families, and among them, unmistakable, is the patron, then a young, ambitious figure. Your gaze locks onto a specific document, a scanned, handwritten ledger entry. These were payoffs. Further down, an internal memo marked Eyes Only, Architects of Legacy, explicitly outlines a plan for the recontextualization of the Chronos Dial's provenance. It speaks of a breach of original custodianship and the necessity of a unified narrative to protect the city's burgeoning reputation. The memo, signed by the patron, details the deliberate suppression of records, the creation of false historical accounts, and the silencing of those who knew the truth. The Chronos Dial was not simply acquired. It was taken, its true origin buried under layers of manufactured history, all orchestrated by this benevolent patron and their secret society, the Architects of Legacy. The theft from the museum wasn't just a heist. It was a re-theft, perhaps, by those seeking to expose the truth. By another faction of the same society, cleaning up loose ends. The patron, the city's beacon of integrity, stands revealed as a key architect of this elaborate deception, quite possibly the mastermind behind the entire apparatus of historical control. The quiet pressure from your trusted circle, the subtle redirection, now makes perfect, terrifying sense. You were getting too close to the source, to the very foundation of their power. You have found your target, identified the organization, and unearthed the core of the decades-old injustice. And now, the true architects of this legacy know you are digging. The air in the safe house, once merely dusty, now feels charged, heavy with the weight of impending confrontation. You stand over a makeshift table, its surface littered with scattered schematics, faded photographs, and the meticulously copied pages of the Veritas Codex, the ancient text whose truth someone is so desperate to bury. The archivist, her brow furrowed in concentration, traces a line of script on one of the codex copies. Her fingers, usually so delicate with parchment, now tap impatiently against the worn paper. "This passage," she murmurs, not looking up. It speaks of the Chronos Weaver. Not a dial, not a device for mere measurement. A weaver of moments, a tool of restoration, or, if wielded with ill intent, of unraveling. You lean closer, your gaze sweeping across the complex diagrams you've painstakingly assembled. The financial trail led here to this desolate outpost, a temporary nexus for the conspirators. Beyond metaphor? She pushes a loose strand of hair from her face, her eyes alight with a sudden, chilling understanding. The original translation, long dismissed as fanciful, described it as capable of localized temporal flux. To restore, yes, to knit together fragmented histories. But consider its inverse, to accelerate decay, to sever the very threads of existence for specific materials. Her gaze snaps to yours, wide with dawning horror. The Veritas Codex. Its ancient parchment, its organic dyes, incredibly vulnerable to such a focused temporal distortion. A cold dread snakes through you, tightening its grip around your chest. The pieces, disparate and fragmented, suddenly snap into a terrifying mosaic. They don't just want to hide the truth, you breathe, the realization a bitter taste on your tongue. They want to obliterate it, to use the Chronos Dial to destroy the Codex, to erase its existence, permanently burying the decades-old cover-up. The hum of the money counter morphs into a ticking clock. If they succeed, the truth of the city's founding, the injustice buried beneath its grand facade, will vanish as if it never was. You grab the crumpled printout of a security report detailing the Chronos Dial's original vault conditions, the specific atmospheric controls in the museum's vault. You muse aloud, designed to preserve its delicate mechanisms. What if those same conditions, or their inverse, are crucial for its destructive function? A controlled environment for a controlled annihilation. Your eyes dart around the safe house. The dust here is a fine reddish-brown, distinct from the pale desert grit outside. You remember seeing a similar particulate on a discarded manifest found near the museum's service entrance, dismissed at the time as simple construction debris. Now it sparks a memory. This dust, you say, rubbing it between your fingers. It's not just desert sand. It has a metallic sheen, a mineral composition. The archivist, following your gaze, picks up a small sealed baggie containing a sample you'd collected earlier. You're right. It's a silicate with traces of iron and copper, common in disused mining operations or abandoned industrial processing plants. You cross to a large topographical map spread across another table, its edges curling. We need to find a location that matches. It fits the geological profile for that residue. A sense of urgency, sharp and relentless, propels you. The mastermind isn't just running. They're preparing. Every moment spent here, analyzing, is a moment closer to the Veritas Codex turning to dust. It spoke of optimal atmospheric pressure for temporal resonance. You sift through a stack of papers, pulling out the transcript of that transmission. And this, you declare, tapping the code. It's not just nonsense. It's an environmental parameter. They need a specific, stable atmosphere to activate the dial's true destructive potential. An isolated, sealed location. The archivist's finger lands on the map, directly on the abandoned processing plant. An underground bunker within that facility, perhaps. Shielded, self-contained, capable of precise climate control. Her voice is tight with apprehension. We have to assume they're already there, making their final preparations. The rhythmic hum of the money counter pounds in your ears, a siren call of impending doom. The image of the ancient text, reduced to nothingness, fuels a fierce determination within you. Then we don't have a minute to lose. You fold the map, the coordinates of the abandoned facility burned into your mind. You must find their hidden lair, recover the dial, and save the truth before it becomes nothing but a forgotten whisper in the wind. The parched earth cracks under your boots. each step a whisper against the vast, indifferent silence of the desert night. A lone, skeletal saguaro stands sentinel against a sky-bruised purple and black, its arms gnarled fingers pointing towards constellations you can barely discern through the rising dust. The coordinates, a digital ghost on your handheld, lead you here, to a structure that appears less built than simply deposited by a forgotten tide. The wind, a dry, rasping breath, carries the faint mechanical thrum before you even reach the corrugated metal door. It's a low, insistent pulse, a heartbeat of commerce in a place devoid of life. You push the door inward. It grates on rusted hinges, protesting the intrusion. The interior is stark, functional, bathed in the sickly yellow glow of a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. The air is thick with the scent of ozone and freshly printed paper. A strange perfume for a hideaway. A shadow detaches itself from the deeper gloom in the corner. "You're punctual, Dean Mitchell," a voice echoes, dry as the desert wind. He stands beside a makeshift desk, a laptop open, its screen casting a faint blue glow on his glasses. "I prefer to be," you respond, your hand resting casually on the butt of your service weapon, the familiar weight a small comfort. You scan the room, noting the single exit, the lack of cover, the way the archivist subtly positions himself between you and the only way out. The Chronos Dial, the true purpose of the historical injustice narrative. It's a file, thick with documents, and on top, a photograph. Your breath catches. It's a picture of you, Dean, taken recently, exiting your apartment building. You see, Dean, the dial isn't merely a key, it's a lens. It doesn't unlock a door, it reveals a perspective. The historical injustice was a necessary fiction, a smokescreen. The real injustice, the one that truly matters, is the inconvenient truth it exposes about the city's foundational families. Reduced to ash. Why? A necessary sacrifice, the archivist says, his eyes glinting. To obscure the path, to make the dial seem like a simple relic. But you, Dean, you saw too much, too quickly. The sound is barely audible, a soft click. We're going to make it look like a tragic accident. A desperate man, cornered, turns on his own. The air crackles. You hear a scuffle, then the unmistakable metallic click of a firearm being readied. Not one, but two distinct sounds. You're not alone with the archivist. Your ally, the quiet, observant colleague who had promised to cover your back, was meant to be outside, a failsafe. Had they been intercepted? Your eyes, accustomed to the low light, strain to pierce the gloom. The archivist's form is a blurred outline near the laptop. Two other figures now move, flanking him, their movements swift, practiced. Enforcers, not academics. They're not trying to wound, they're trying to kill. You roll, using the wooden table as temporary cover, the stacks of money scattering, a rain of currency. The archivist curses. "Fan out," he barks. "Don't let him escape." Another shot. You return fire, aiming for the muzzle flash, the recoil a sharp jolt through your arm. A grunt of pain, one down or at least wounded. You can hear movement, heavy boots scraping on the concrete floor. They're closing in. The figure stumbles, falls, their momentum carrying them into the scattered money. "Dean, move!" A hushed voice calls from the now open doorway. It's your colleague, their silhouette stark against the faint moonlight. They're here, not intercepted but positioned, waiting for the precise moment. A calculated risk. The archivist, realizing the trap has sprung in reverse, snarls. The dial is already en route. You're too late. He makes a dash for a smaller hidden door in the back of the safe house, a last-ditch escape. You fire, not at him, but at the laptop. A small victory, perhaps, but a victory nonetheless. The data, at least, won't be easily retrieved. "The dial's location, Dean," your colleague shouts, covering your retreat. "They're moving it." You sprint towards the open door, the money counter's alarm still screaming its electronic protest. the scent of gunpowder thick in the air. The desert night, once silent, now feels alive with urgency. The mastermind has revealed his hand, their true motives laid bare, and the stakes have never been higher. There, amidst stacks of crates and scattered schematics, stands the curator. His posture is rigid, his face a mask of grim resolve, etched with lines you'd once mistaken for wisdom. Its intricate gears gleam under the bare bulb, a beacon of stolen history. It ends here. Your voice cuts through the hum, raw with the desert's grit and the weight of days without rest. The curator turns slowly. His eyes, usually placid, now hold a glint of desperation. A cornered predator's last stand. Does it, Dean? Or does it merely begin anew? He gestures towards the ancient text, its binding cracked with age, pages yellowed like forgotten parchment. This is the real prize. The Chronos Dial merely opened the door. Just then, a swift shadow flickers at the entrance. Anya, her movements fluid and silent as a desert cat, steps in, her presence a tangible force of focused intent. She carries no weapon, only an unyielding resolve that mirrors your own. The text, you state, your voice lower now, a dangerous rumble. It holds the truth, doesn't it? The truth of the city's foundation, the injustice buried beneath the polished facades. A bitter laugh escapes the curator, a dry, rasping sound. Truth is a luxury, Dean, and often a burden. The air grows heavy with the scent of kerosene. This text, this truth, threatens to unravel everything. Decades of peace, built on carefully constructed narratives. Your eyes dart from the torch to the ancient book, then to the Chronos Dial. The mastermind's plan crystallizes in your mind, the intricate web of deception finally untangled. To retrieve this text and destroy it. To erase the record of the founding family's atrocities, their usurpation of the land, their exploitation. The Chronos Dial was just a sophisticated lockpick. The curator's face contorts, a flicker of something akin to relief, or perhaps surrender passing through his eyes. They would have torn the city apart, Dean. The descendants of the wronged, the descendants of the founders. A powder keg. I was protecting the future. He holds the torch closer to the ancient pages, the flame dancing, hungry. No. Anya's voice is a whip crack, cutting through the tension. You were protecting the legacy of the corrupt. You were complicit in a cover-up that has festered for generations. Her hand moves, a blur, towards the Chronos Dial. The curator reacts, a desperate lunge to block her, his gaze momentarily leaving the text. This is your opening. You move, a practiced blur of motion, not towards the curator, but towards the table, directly for the ancient book. Your hand sweeps across the surface, snatching the heavy volume just as the torch flame licks at the edge of the first brittle page. A faint wisp of smoke rises, the scent of burning paper a sickening addition to the air. Anya, meanwhile, has secured the Chronos Dial, her fingers expertly closing around its cool metallic form. The curator, disarmed of his incendiary tool and his primary objective, stands frozen, his grand plan crumbling around him. The historical injustice. You breathe, holding the rescued text, its weight a testament to the buried lives it represents. The city's elite, the founding fathers you so desperately sought to protect. They built their empire on stolen land, on broken treaties, on the suffering of the indigenous population. This text is the original charter, twisted, reinterpreted, finally hidden away. You lay the book gently on a clear space, your fingers tracing the ancient script, the power of its truth palpable. You knew the true meaning of the dial, its connection to the hidden compartment in the museum's foundation, the one no modern record acknowledged. You used your position, your knowledge of forgotten histories, to orchestrate this elaborate charade. The curator slumps, his shoulders caving in. The humming of the money counter seems to mock his defeat, a constant, irritating drone. The desert wind howls faintly outside, a desolate chorus to the unraveling of a decades-old lie. The city's history, once a carefully curated fiction, now stands poised to be rewritten, its hidden scars exposed to the harsh glare of justice. The curator, a man now shorn of his carefully constructed facade, crumples into himself, a marionette with severed strings. His shoulders, once squared with institutional authority, are now a landscape of defeat, valleys and ridges carved by a truth too heavy to bear. The money counter, an indifferent metallic heartbeat, continues its relentless churn, counting the very currency of the lie that has just collapsed. Outside, the desert wind, a lonely siren, keens its ancient song, an echo of the desolate future awaiting those who built their empires on deceit. You watch, a quiet observer in the eye of this swirling storm. The Chronos Dial, a disc of tarnished bronze and etched mysteries, rests in Anya's steady grip, its surface catching the dim, dusty light. It pulses with a silent power, not magical, but historical, a key that has unlocked more than just a vault. It has unlocked a city's conscience, a truth long buried beneath layers of privilege and silence. Your gaze shifts from the dial to the curator, then to the other figures in the room, the few trusted colleagues who bore witness to this final, ignominious unraveling. The tension is a living thing, stretched taut between the stark reality of the dial's presence and the enormity of what its recovery signifies. The senior investigator, a man whose face usually holds the gravitas of stone, clears his throat, the sound a dry rasp in the quiet. Secure the artifact, Anya. And the funds. His voice is low, a ripple across the surface of the strained silence. Your eyes meet his, a silent acknowledgement passing between you. The work isn't done, it's merely shifted. The hunt for the truth has ended, but the battle for its acceptance has just begun. You feel the weariness in your bones, a deep ache born of sleepless nights and relentless pursuit. But beneath it, a current of satisfaction pulses. The scales, for a fleeting moment, feel balanced. Anya, her expression unreadable, carefully places the Chronos Dial into a padded, lockable case, the metallic click echoing with finality. The curator remains, a statue of ruin, his eyes fixed on some distant, internal horizon. You know his confession, once recorded, will be a fuse igniting a conflagration in the city's upper echelons. You step outside the safe house, the desert night air sharp and cool, a welcome assault on your senses. The vast, inky canvas above is peppered with indifferent stars, ancient witnesses to countless human dramas. The city, a distant glow on the horizon, feels both miles away and intimately close. You imagine the headlines, the indignant denials, the carefully crafted press releases already being drafted. The elite, those who orchestrated the cover-up, will not fall quietly. They will claw and bite, leverage every connection, every ounce of influence to discredit, to deflect, to destroy. Your comms device vibrates, a digital tether to the world you've just profoundly shaken. It's the chief, his tone predictably clipped, a thin veneer over suppressed fury. Dean Mitchell, we need to talk, now. The command is absolute, the unspoken message clear. You've crossed a line, and there will be consequences. You anticipate the reprimands, the veiled threats, perhaps even a forced sabbatical. The bureaucracy, a many-headed beast, will demand its pound of flesh for the disruption you've caused, for daring to expose the rot beneath its polished surface. A sense of isolation settles upon you, a familiar companion in this line of work. You've always walked a solitary path, but this time the stakes feel higher, the adversaries more entrenched. Yet, as you look back at the safe house, a beacon of reluctant justice in the vast emptiness, you feel no regret. The truth, however inconvenient, however costly, is now unearthed. The historical injustice, the decades-old lie that festered beneath the museum's hallowed halls, has been dragged into the harsh light. The students, the activists, the families who suffered under the weight of that cover-up will finally have their voices heard, their stories validated. The immediate aftermath will be chaotic. The museum will become a crucible of public scrutiny. The board members, the city councilors, the powerful philanthropists who benefited from the Chronos Dial's suppression will face uncomfortable questions. Some will crumble, others will double down. But the foundation has been cracked. You can almost hear the tremor beneath the city's concrete, the faint, distant rumble of an empire beginning to shift. You know this is not the end of the fight, merely the beginning of another. The lingering impact will ripple through generations. Reputations will be shattered. Fortunes will be questioned. And the very narrative of the city's proud history will have to be rewritten, stained with the truth of its past transgressions. Your own professional future, once a clear path, now stretches into an uncertain fog. But as you turn your back on the safe house and step towards the waiting transport, a quiet resolve settles deep within your chest. You have done what was right, and in the vast, indifferent expanse of the desert night, that, for now, is enough. The tension remains, a hum beneath your skin, but it is a tension born of anticipation, not fear. The city sleeps, unaware of the earthquake you've just unleashed. Soon, it will wake.